The depiction of black women in the media has been an ongoing issue for a while now. It's a regularity, it's the norm. Not only are you dealing with what is essentially a patriarchal world, but you're also black, and that's I mean, that just sucks. And that's real, and something even the Boondocks was accused of was being misogynistic. And while I do reserve my own opinions on that, it's undeniable that the sheer lack of representation on such an influential show would have had an impact on such an underrepresented minority group. And while I can't speak for the Boondocks, I can speak for Michiko and Hatchin. Keep watching, ball out.
It's called Operation Black Steel.
We should call
We're calling it Operation Black Steel. I like that name. We're not changing it.
Before we get into anything, I'm going to talk a bit about the importance of representation, and most importantly, the impact it can have on the lives of people. The best example is a personal example, so I'm just going to speak for myself. A big part of what inspires me as a black creative is the very existence of the Boondocks. The fact that a show like that exists is inherently inspiring. It's an Eastern animated show with a predominantly black cast where they yell nigger, get into crazy fights, and tackle social, cultural, and political issues.
Let's see, this is my first time here, but all my friends rave about it. What's good?
Oh, everything here will kill you. Run. Look what you've done to this community.
It's not that bad.
Not that bad. This place used to sit between a coffee shop and a day spa. Now there's a liquor store and a damn Foot Locker. This food is destructive.
This food is your culture.
Then the culture is destructive.
I think I speak for everyone when I say, this should have never happened. Nothing about this show existing makes any sense, but the very fact that it does gives me faith in my own dreams. That is the power of representation. Seeing images of people that look like you, speak like you, act like you, it's not only a way of investing minorities with diversity, but it inadvertently inspires them to pursue their dreams too. It shows them that they can make it just like you. Michiko and Hatchin, while not made by a black woman, manages to personify the same level of representation through a level of complexity shown with the characters. Ultimately, while the Boondocks is designed to satirize black culture, the main cast simply doesn't include a black woman. Therefore, any form of representation would be done through the use of a heavily parodied character of the week, designed for a joke or to make a quick point. This speaks more to the type of show the Boondocks is as opposed to it being misogynistic or Aaron Raguda not liking black women, because that's just dumb, just sharp. If she's not a main character, then she probably won't be represented with the same level of complexity as the main cast. By virtue of this being a comedic satire. Shows typically depict black women as either sexual objects, aggressive, gossipers, incompetent, greedy, blah blah blah. You get the idea, negative stereotypes. It's not exactly positive. And positive black representation doesn't exist in the form of romanticized depictions of black women. It exists in the form of complexity. God knows Michiko is not the ideal black woman. She's rude, she's vulgar, she's hostile, but guess what? She's also sensitive, emotional, and lovesick. She does her best to make Hatchin happy, and you sympathize with her end goal. Michiko and Hatchin is basically this show about black women trying to find her lost white lover. I mean, I know that's simplifying it, but I mean, that's what it is. And I'm not gonna spoil the series, but I will say that the ending is right there in your face throughout the show. But because of the struggle Michiko goes through and the lengths to which she goes to find this guy, you sympathize with her and you want the best for her. When she's down in the dumps that she'll ever find him again, you want her to keep going. When she's confronted with the harsh reality that he wasn't as great as a man as she thought she was, you want to deny it. When she dreams about this familial utopia of her, Hatchin, and him together as a family, I don't go, haha, you dumb bitch. I go, wow, I really want that to happen too, but why haven't you realized that that's not going to happen? That's where Atsuko comes in, with her dynamic. She also just wants Michiko to move on with her life, she's conflicted. As a friend, would catching Michiko really help her in the long run? Or would she live the rest of her life wandering in denial? There's this complexity, and none of this is conventionally positive. This show isn't, black women sitting around a dinner table talking about their perfect lives. But it's positive in the sense that these are black women being treated as actual human beings with a range of different feelings, emotions, drives, and, ambitions. You could argue that because the show focuses on this black woman chasing after this white man, that it's inherently stereotypical and negative. The show is basically the opposite of Samurai Champloo. I mean, that show is great, and you should definitely watch it, by the way, seriously. In Samurai Champloo, it's don't trust these hoes, and in Michiko and Hatchin is don't trust these niggas. I'm joking, but I'm not. One of my favorite episodes of this show was involving Hatchin, where she essentially gets a movie star to lie to Michiko to encourage her to see her journey through to the end. You know, it's beautifully tragic. On one hand, you know, you're essentially lying to her. On the other, you just kind of want to see her be happy again. This show got me moving sensitive, let me not lie. There's an episode about cheating. There's an episode with strong connections to Blanquamento and shadism and the impact of white supremacy. You know, there's a lot going on, and this is a really cool show. And just like how the Boondocks told me that anything is possible as a black man, similarly, I think Michiko and Hatchin could achieve similar things with black women. That is the power of representation. It empowers. It can reach people on a personal level. Like, why do you think things like Black Panther resonated with so many people? It spoke to a personal experience which they could identify with. You know, people say this a lot, but it's true. You know, it's a white man's world. Representation is a necessity because it fights the norm. It normalizes what should be normal. I shouldn't have to look at a show like this and go, finally a show for black women. You know, there should already be shows like this, but there isn't. When people see characters like Shuri and Black Panther, it's easy for an outsider to go, these niggas just like it because it's black. When in reality, you know, speaking as someone who is black, it's difficult to find something to relate to on a personal level when all the superheroes and leaders on the world and in the media are just white. And you know, that sounds like a minor gripe. It sounds so superficial. It sounds so dumb. But like, you know, it means a lot to see someone who looks like you on the big screen. As a child, it gives you something to aspire to be like. Someone like you. And that's not to say that growing up black means you have no white leaders or no people that inspire you. You know, no. You know, growing up, one of my favorite fictional characters was Robin from Teen Titans. Not only because he was cool, paranoid, and I related to his issues, but in the comic strip, he was an activist. Yeah, I'm a nerd. My point is, people like to pretend that race doesn't exist. They like to pretend that we're all colorblind, even as children. Even though the world we live in today was built on racism and oppression, now is when it doesn't matter. I think now is when it matters the most. Because now is the time to rebuild what is broken and help change the image. And that's not just for black people, that's for black women. If you think black men have it bad, oh shit, it's peak. Blanquamento I briefly covered in my last video, but it's essentially Europeans being brought into foreign countries to have sex with colored women and whiten their babies. Michiko and Hatchin has an episode like this where a woman fantasizes over the beauty of a white child as opposed to the brown and dark skinned children. I can tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've heard black people say that they don't like dark skinned girls, and you know, to all the niggas that think that, you know, in a way, all you're doing is adhering to an old government system literally designed to destroy and bury your culture with Eurocentrism. In short, you're dumb. The Black Panther Party was sadly known for having some leaders with dated views on sex and gender equality. So there's almost this duality of struggle in being a black woman. Black women have to deal with the patriarchal world we live in, but also dealing with the racial baggage of being black in a white man's world. And the keyword being white man. You know, the black woman doesn't fit into any of that. That's just a bit tight. And while I am an advocate for breaking the mold and not letting anything hold you back, I think it's important to acknowledge your circumstances. You know, we can't play ignorant to the world around us because all that does is benefit the people who chose to oppress us. But the idea is to acknowledge that and keep moving forward. And representation is a good way of inspiring people to think this way. Michiko and Hatchin isn't a show that sensationalizes being a black woman, nor does it paint the experience as something it isn't. Similarly, it doesn't romanticize black women in the way that Ebony Brown did in season 3 of the Boondocks. This episode's bad. I'm sorry, Aaron. What were you doing? I mean, I know what you were thinking. I know what you were trying to go for. You know, the whole black women criticism, but come on, bro. This wasn't the way to do it. It makes it look worse than it actually was, because it wasn't an issue until, oh my god. You know, Michiko and Hatchin, you know, it paints the experience with ups and downs, highs and lows, and there's a lot to show. The show isn't about the dependency women place on men. The ultimate message of this show is that even if the world doesn't have your back, you still have each other. And it's through meeting the right people that the best can be brought out of all of us. And that simple message being done on the big screen with people of color can be enough to inspire black women to pursue greatness. That is the power of representation. You know, I speak to black women and I love it when I see black women seek independence. You know, when they seek individuality, respect and self-love. That they have dreams and a beautiful mind. You know, that is a queen. And we can help cultivate a culture of like-minded black women by inspiring them through representation. Aaron Magruder once said, if you can control perception, then you can control reality. If black women can see themselves on TV, on social media, on the internet, or wherever represented with complexity and, you know, positivity, then it will encourage more of them to be that way. It's all about image and the impact it can have on people. If it wasn't obvious by my voice, I'm a black man, I'm a black guy, I'm a nigga, whatever you want to call me. Therefore, it's impossible for me to speak for a community that I'm technically not a part of, so I'm not going to. I simply hope shows like this set the standard for representation for black women in the media, whether it be animated films, shows, books, or whatever. You know, I don't want to sit down and see the same caricature of the angry black woman. Similarly, I have no interest in seeing an over-romanticized image of a black woman in the media. Both are simplified. Both don't feel real, so no one will care. Complexity solves this because it's real. People are complex in how they work, operate, feel, and think. And so are black women. And I can only hope for the day that the industry does better, and they're given the strong representation they truly deserve. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Operation Black Steel. Stay real.
Maybe your problem with women is you pick crazy ones, but you can't hold that against every new woman you meet. Don't be a hypocrite, Granddad.